Hi everyone! So as you might have guessed from what's in the background, I not only got to run my first session as a GM, I got to run my first session in D&D. And it was a really fun experience. So actually a couple of days before I ran the session, I went to Facebook and asked the brigade if anybody had any tips for a first-time GM, and I'm going to share some of my favorite tips with you guys today. The biggest suggestion that everybody had was relax and have fun. Everybody else is going to have fun if you're having fun, and if you're nervous and stressed, that's going to affect the game. So I had a couple of times where I was a little nervous because I had forgotten something and had to look it up in the book, or just kind of the initial like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this, I'm running this. For the most part, I tried to just, I think it really helped that I was playing with a bunch of friends that I had played with before plenty of times. I knew that they were going to be understanding and forgiving if I screwed up or forgot a rule or needed to pause and look at something, that they weren't going to freak out and be like, you don't know everything off the top of your head. The second biggest tip, which I probably could have done a little bit better on, was to know your scenario. And I think if I had had a few weeks to prepare rather than about half a week, I would have done a lot better. I had read through the scenario fully once and then had really focused on the first session's worth of material. One suggestion I really liked, and I think it's actually a good thing for any GM to follow, is from Rob Davis, and he said, "The DM doesn't have to be the most rules knowledgeable person. If you've got a player who knows the rules well, you can simply ask them on a ruling." So, since one of our players, Steven, is really good at remembering rules, he kind of was my go-to guy whenever we had things like, well, how exactly does a spell work? He also was playing our wizard, which was handy. So I would hand off the rules book so that he could look that up while I kind of continued on with everybody else, and then once it got around to his character's turn, he had had time to find the rule, read it, understand it, and then I pretty much just trusted him because I knew him as a player and I knew he's not going to fudge a rule, he's going to follow it to the letter. Another great suggestion was from William Dymock Johnson? Sorry if I messed up your last name. And his suggestion was everyone has a name. So give a name to the random goblin that they're going to encounter in the first scenario, and there are 4 or 5 of them. Make sure all of them have names. And while I didn't do this exactly, I tried to kind of think of all of the characters, especially the little goblins, as unique. And I think that kind of helped. It may not have been conveyed to the players. It helped me as a GM because it was less stats and numbers on a sheet and more, okay, they're up against, the 4 goblins and they're all kind of have a little bit different personalities and stuff like that. So it was more of a story and less just an encounter. Another good suggestion from Ronnie Bradley was allow yourself to make mistakes. And I made a couple of mistakes in the first session. I can't think of any specifically right now, but I'm sure I did. And I just kind of rolled with it and admitted when I made a mistake and said, hey, we need to go back. Or we realized later on that we had rolled something a little differently the time before. So instead of going back and trying to figure out how do we fix this, we just said, okay, well, we'll move on. We'll do the rule from this way from now on. And it worked. One thing that a couple people suggested is to have voices for the different characters, and I wasn't really planning on doing this. I had kind of thought out how a couple of the different characters would speak, kind of how intelligent they would speak and stuff like that. But when we ran into one of the goblins, I just kind of started doing a voice, and that just informed the character so much, so it was really fun, and I'm probably going to have to find a way to bring that character back because he was just the voice kind of created a whole new character that I'm like, I want to play this character more. He was fun, even though he died. Set up a GM screen. I actually used the box, the bottom and the lid, set up to kind of create the screen. And I think if I continue GMing, I may actually go out and get or make my own GM screen. Having the GM screens, which I've seen where it will have basic stats and stuff like that, really help because I have problems keeping a whole lot of numbers and statistics in my head, so it'd be nice to have something to quickly reference rather than having to flip through a notebook, which is what I was doing. Another thing I did that I will highly suggest is having a piece of paper and pencil or a dry erase board to write down initiative rules. So every round I would erase the previous one, write it all down, and that really helped me keep track of what order everybody was going in. So that kind of sped up the combat. So that is it for today. I'm interested to know if you have any tips for first-time GMs. Let's put them down in the comments, or if you have any interesting stories, horror stories, things that really worked well from your first time GMing, put those down in the comments. Let's talk about it down there. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye!